Hello, it's the Liverpool Echoes Blood Red podcast. I'm Matt Addison with Ian Doyle, Theo, Squires and Hannah Pinnock all with me for this afternoon's show. We'll be talking about Benfica and Fabio Carvalho shortly and also previewing the big one, Manchester City away at the Etihad Stadium, plus giving our team and score predictions for that match. We shall, as always, though, go chronologically, Doyle, and start with a couple of other bits before we get to the fixture that everyone is waiting for. It was, without a doubt, a really good result for Liverpool midweek. Was it worth spending 8 hours in an airport for?
Is anything? Let's be honest. But that should be the question. Is anything worth 8 hours in an airport, including an hour and a half on a plane that wasn't going anywhere? Anyway, there's people who had worse situations at Manchester Airport than me, so I'm not going to complain too much, which is unlike me. But yeah, Benfica. First half, I thought Liverpool played really well. Could have been 4 or 5-0 up. Nobody could have complained too much. I mean, they gave chances away a little bit to Benfica because of the way that they played. They made the decision, didn't they, to go with Keita and Thiago in midfield because they knew quite well Benfica would sit back. And so the best way of finding a way through is to have your two most creative central midfielders on the pitch. And, while Thiago had a little bit of a backseat, he was just kind of moving the team around a bit. It was Keita who was excellent all the way through. And it wasn't a surprise that come the end, it was him playing that ball through for Luis Diaz. So I think Liverpool overall, they deserved the victory. We saw against Inter Milan in the last round that a 2-goal margin away from home can get a little bit tricky if you're not fully concentrated, but I think it's fair to say Inter Milan are a lot better team than Benfica. And you saw some of the defending from Benfica. I mean, Vertonghen and Otamendi, I think, about as old as I am. And they were a little bit scared, should we say? Not scared. They're a little bit wary of whenever the ball came anywhere near them, and the likes of Salah, Diaz, Jota were running at them. And I think Liverpool, while there was that one mistake by Canati, I thought I had a good game, actually, apart from that. Really, Benfica, you can see they've kind of reached the limit of the, they probably overachieved in the competition this season. You can see where they are in the Portuguese league. And I think they'll give it a go on Wednesday when the return game is. But I think Liverpool now be a major surprise. Sorry, they did
through to the semi-finals. So I suppose with the two games against Manchester City, either side of it, it's not a bad position for Jurgen Klopp's team to find themselves in.
No, not at all. It was basically how you want a game to go. You want that lead. You want to have it early on so you can make your changes. Sadio Mane came off with one eye on this City game, and then they're almost in a position where you can treat it as a game you can rotate in midweek anyway, with one eye on the FA Cup semi-final. Like Liverpool at Anfield, they're in a position of strength. They very rarely lose the games when they need to. Like, I know we had Atletico Madrid a couple of years ago, and going in the Rodgers time, they've been Zenit in the Europa League, but this Liverpool side is a very different prospect. They're in form, confident. They've got players who are making their squad like the strongest it's ever been. You'd imagine they're going to get the job done, whether it's 99%. Like, what would the percentage have been when they played Barcelona when they won the Champions League after that 3-0 first leg win, and they still got the job done then? Liverpool should get. They have got one foot in the semi-finals, and while you maybe feel a bit more confident if away goals were still a thing, 3 away goals, like Benfica aren't coming back from that. They've got enough about them to get the job done. Basically perfect European away day, even if we did have that blip from a Canate mistake. But he'd already made up for it by scoring his goal, and as Doyle said, he was pretty decent for the rest of the game apart from that one error.
Yeah, there was a few decent performances, Hannah. I thought Ibrahim Konate, actually, apart from the mistake, was pretty perfect. Was Luis Diaz another one for you that stood out? Who was the sort of the big names from that game that really stood out from a Liverpool perspective?
Yeah, surprisingly, it was Mohamed Salah that had a quiet game, given the form that he's been in all season. But Diaz just continues to impress, doesn't he? He's just been such a fantastic signing. He's coming in January and he's made such a big impact, and it's that attacking depth that we've always been vying for, and we've got that now, that you can make changes, you can bring off the likes of Salah or Mane from the bench if you wanted to, but also you've still got Jota and Firmino in that forward line as well. So it's just incredible attacking depth that we've had. But Diaz was definitely one that impressed for me. Of course, he got the goal as well, and he set up Sadio Mane. So by my stretch, that's probably a 9 out of 10. I'm not quite sure what Ian gave him in his ratings, but I imagine it was a pretty high score.
Diaz, I think I only gave him 7.
That's harsh.
I did think about it on the way home. Think, is he worthy of an 8? But no, I'm sticking with it.
I think if it was me, I probably would have given him that 8, potentially leading on to a 9, just given how impressive he was. And obviously, Sadio Mane was among the goals as well. He's, for me, I think he's been a lot more clinical in his finishing this season. There's been periods before where he's certainly struggled, and he's probably lacked that confidence, whether or not it's AFCON that's given Mane a bit of confidence of late. And of course, the World Cup qualifiers as well, beating Egypt. He's been the hero for his nation, if anything. And we've kind of seen a rejuvenated Mane in recent weeks, whereas Salah's probably sort of struggled a little bit. But, you'd fully expect Salah to find his form again. And even though he probably wasn't particularly great against Benfica, of course, he's always a threat. But he had a couple of chances that he probably could have done a little bit better with, but you'd fully expect Salah to find his form again. Hopefully it will be against Manchester City. That would probably be a good time to do it.
Yeah, a few decent performances, Doyle, from a Liverpool perspective. Probably one that stood out really from Benfica, Darwin Núñez. Some reports in Portugal suggesting that Liverpool players were left impressed by him. Were you impressed by him? Was he the clear standout for you in that Benfica team?
Well, I have to say we were on the back row of the stand, and most of the players were a million miles away, so it was quite hard. We knew the keeper, and that was round about it. We couldn't see most of the others. No, we could. Yeah, he stood out a bit, but he took. Actually, to be fair, he took his goal really well, and he's quite clearly a bit of a player. But it's early days for him. How old is he? He's only about 2021, isn't he? Is he
22, I think.
Yeah. So he's quite young. As a Uruguayan international, I know Klopp spoke about him before the game. And well, we've seen many a time that just because you score loads of goals in the Portuguese league doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it. In England, fortunately, Diaz is proving that wrong at the moment. And I suspect if Núñez does come out, Darwin, as he should be called. Apparently, that's what he is known as. If he comes over, say, to any English club, I'd imagine he'll do quite well. So, footballers aren't daft. If some players are saying that somebody's had a good game against them, then they must know that he has done. By the way, is Hannah been held hostage there? Because I feel as though we should send some money or something to try and pay the ransom.
No, I'm fine.
It's just for anybody's not watching. Basically, you're not chained to a radiator or anything. No. Okay, just okay, good, excellent. Just checking.
If anyone's not watching on YouTube, do go and check that out, and you'll be able to see what Doyle means there. I know exactly what he meant. I was thinking the exact same thing, to be honest. But Doyle, we'll go from one player playing in Portugal to another who has just made his debut for Portugal at youth level in Fabio Carvalho. Seamless link there from myself, if I do say so.
Very good.
Myself and James Martin had a chat about him this morning. Obviously, Liverpool closing in on a deal. It's not exactly a surprise that that's the case.
Well, no. Well, it can't be that much of a surprise given the fact they nearly signed him in January, and they would have done had the EFL had deal sheets, because they tried to get it over the line. It didn't quite happen. It would have been loaned back to Fulham anyway. But yeah, it looks as though Liverpool, as you said, it's not a surprise that they can get this deal done. When it wasn't completed in time, there's always that worry, isn't there, that somebody else can come in and go in for him. But I think what you find now, certainly with Liverpool, is that because they are so good at recruitment, and also given their standing in world football at the moment, it would seem a bit weird if a player who said that he wants to join in January, and then Liverpool go on and win a trophy, and then they're still in the other three, turns around and then says, "I don't want to come anymore." That would be a bit odd for that to happen, and it looks like that is going to happen, and Carvalho will be on his way. I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting actually to see whether or not he actually becomes English or Portuguese. I think Liverpool would be quite happy if he ended up, deciding that he wants to play for England rather than Portugal, because he does have dual nationality, doesn't he? He can play for both. What did you say? He played? Did he play for? He played for Portugal under 21s, didn't he? He did play for them, yeah. Because I knew he got called up, yeah.
Yeah, so he's played for England under 20s, hasn't he? But then made his under 21 Portugal debut, I think, in the internationals.
So maybe coming to Liverpool will give him make him decide to play for it. I don't know. It depends. He'll get more of an opportunity there. But he's doing well for Fulham. They're going to come up. He's going to end up with a winners' medal, you'd think, this season, a championship winners' medal. And he's going to be making that big step up. And Liverpool, is somebody that they've looked at for a while. They've obviously wanted him in January. Now the deal is more or less done, and it's another young player for Liverpool. They brought in Harvey Elliott, didn't they, the other year? They brought through Curtis Jones. You could argue before that there's Trent Alexander-Arnold, Nico Williams also knocking around. He's doing okay for Wales, and for Fulham actually. That's Liverpool kind of safeguarding the future, and I think it's a bit of a no-brainer for the amount of money that they're going to pay for him, which doesn't seem as though it's going to be an awful lot.
Yeah, around 5 million, I think, isn't it, to begin with, a couple of million in add-ons as well. Theo, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see kind of what player Liverpool turn him into. We know he plays pretty much as a number 10 for Fulham. Liverpool don't have a number 10, but we have kind of seen with Harvey Elliott the transformation that these young players can undertake with Jurgen Klopp.
Not sure how well you're going to be hearing me here because the office has gone a bit crazy with a load of Greg's freebies, so everyone's excited around me. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. But yeah, you'd imagine that Liverpool don't play with this number 10, so they are going to have to reinvent him. But you can do it with these young players. As you said, Harvey Elliott is the perfect example, but it's one where if he doesn't go into a deeper midfield role, you just put him out wide in a front three. I think I've read a piece on, it was either the Echo website or .com's website, that he could be like this Firmino replacement as that false nine. So he's a versatile forward. You can imagine he's got these traits to play any of these roles, and this is what Liverpool like. This is why Liverpool are signing him, because he's got this attacking threat and he's got this ability to play anywhere, and they can see something they like in him. Doesn't really matter, I suppose, whether he's English youth or Portuguese youth, because he's been at Fulham since he was since 2015. So I think he's going to count as homegrown anyway, with the Premier League rules. And Liverpool got this exciting young talent who scored plenty of goals in the Championship this season. He's had a really good year. I think they could actually come to promotion this weekend if Nottingham Forest lose and they win their respective game. It's been a hell of a season, and while he might not have had as many goals or assists since the Liverpool move fell through, I think he's a teenager. We can understand why he's going to be an exciting prospect. It's quite telling that I think they're saying he's going straight into the Liverpool first team. That's going to be good pre-season for him to show what he can do. You'd imagine he'd get a few domestic cup games, and even though he's not going to be playing as much in the Premier League for Liverpool as he would have done if he'd stayed at Fulham, you just need to look at the likes of Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Kate Gordon, Trent before that. Like, youngsters get opportunities at Liverpool, and it's another exciting signing they've come in. And the fact that he can play in so many positions, he might not be a number 10 at Liverpool, but they've certainly got a plan for him. It'll be interesting to see what it is as months go on.
Theo, are you concerned that doing this podcast means you might miss out on the free Gregs?
All I can smell at the moment is Greg's sausage rolls.
And also, how come this only ever happens when everybody else is not in the office? It never happens.
You don't come into the office anymore.
It never happened when I was there. Never got anything.
That's true. Yeah, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on.
Well, if Theo's camera goes off, we'll know why. Hannah, we'll come to you next on just Fabio Carvalho quickly before we move on to the Manchester City game. I thought this morning, actually, it was interesting. We kind of think about the Liverpool squad. There's lots of players within that. What could the Carvalho signing sort of do for some of the other players who kind of play in the similar positions? You think of someone like a Milner, an Oxlade-Chamberlain, even a Minamino. You'd think of someone who can play kind of in that midfield type role, the forward type role. It could have an impact given how many players Liverpool already have.
Certainly, but Carvalho is probably one for the future, if anything. I highly doubt he's going to come into the team and force people out straight away, given that he's so young. But, Klopp's at a point with this squad where he has got players that are getting a bit older, that he has got to start thinking about the future and where he wants this squad to go. And Carvalho is probably one for that. So in the near future, I don't really see him threatening anyone in terms of their position. But obviously, Milner's getting on, and Henderson, probably hasn't got too many years ahead of him at Liverpool, given that he's getting a bit older. But, as you've been touching on there, Klopp's got the time, and a player like Carvalho, you can certainly mould into what he wants. And he's definitely an exciting one and one to watch. And, I think he's got 8 goals, 7 assists in all competitions for Fulham this season. And one of those goals came against Manchester City. So, he's at that age to be scoring in big games like that. And, testament to his quality as a player, really. And, you've seen the pathway there with Harvey Elliott. And I wouldn't say Klopp's necessarily thrown Elliott in at the deep end. Obviously, he's altered his position slightly, and Elliott got quite a few games at the start of the season before he got that horrific injury against Leeds. But the pathway's there, and like you touched on there, he'll certainly get cup games and potentially a couple of Premier League appearances, depending on how we're getting on next season. But if Liverpool have any sort of a successful season next year, like they've done this time around, being in 4 competitions, there'll be plenty of game time, and it'll be certainly interesting to see where he does fit into that Klopp team, and whether or not he's, potentially that Bobby replacement, or whether or not Klopp adjusts his tactics slightly and sort of goes back to that number 10 role, really.
Yeah, certainly one to watch out for if, as expected, Liverpool do get that deal done. But that's one for the summer. For this weekend, Doyle, it's all about Manchester City, so we'll move on to that one next. A fairly short question for you to start with. If Liverpool are going to win the league, do they need to go there and win?
No.
I agree.
That's a very short answer for you.
Can you expand?
Yeah. If they lose, it would be very difficult to win the league if they lose, because you're 4 points behind City. City's running is easier. Liverpool would have to win all of their games, more or less, and City would have to drop points in 2. Can't see it happening. If Liverpool win, then again, I can see Man City winning all of their games. Liverpool, I think, might drop points in one of them, which they can afford to do, and then it's down to goal difference. So then it's tricky. If it's a draw, I think it's just like a couple of years ago, isn't it? They would just be trading blows game by game, which I think will happen anyway. But I do think that if Liverpool lose, I would be very surprised if City fell away in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that might happen is whether the Champions League plays an impact on it, depending on who City play, because there's every chance they could play Real Madrid now, given what happened to Chelsea the other day. So that would be a massive game, obviously, for Pep, and come up against Real Madrid. The bit of history there, and he's obviously desperate to win the Champions League with City. So but that's only that game takes place either side. They'll probably play someone like Coventry or somebody really difficult like that. So I do think that Liverpool, if they lose, that's it. If they win, that's not necessarily it, but it's a great chance for them, and it'll give them that kind of boost because they've got some really hard games coming up in the league. I mean, what is it? It's City in all competitions: City, Benfica, City, United, Everton. And it's like, come on. I mean, Theo just pointed out they got Watford at home, which they always win 6-0. They got Leeds away, which they'll win that one. Leeds aren't very good, and Newcastle at home will have given up. So it's going to be tough for Liverpool. But you asked me the question. I can't remember what the question was. What was it? I just said no to it. If they win, will they have to win the league? Yeah.
Do they have to win?
Yeah. So no, they don't have to win, but they absolutely cannot afford to get beat.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's exactly why I think it's going to be a draw, to be honest. But Theo, in terms of the game itself, how do you expect it to pan out? I think it could possibly be cagey. It could be kind of all-out attack, end-to-end. It's quite a hard one to predict how it's going to be, I think.
Yes, it is, because I suppose we haven't really seen Liverpool at their best against Man City since the 3-1 win at Anfield in the title-winning year. Like, you think last season they had the injuries, didn't have Van Dijk for either game. Even the home draw this year, they didn't have Trent. So there've always been these aspects to it. When they won the title and it was that first game, there was obviously a hangover there. But against City in 2019, they just exploded into life, didn't they? Straight from the off, Liverpool needed to attack quickly and really absorb the crowd to get that going. But it's a very different prospect when you go into the Etihad. Like, Liverpool's record there isn't the best. I think they've only won twice there under Klopp. Once in the Premier League, and that would have been his first trip there back in 2015, 2016. So this Liverpool side is so different from that side he inherited. Like, for so long we've said Man City have got the best starting 11 or the best squad depth in the Premier League. They don't now. You look at it, Liverpool's depth is certainly stronger. The starting 11's arguably stronger too. They're a lot more complete side for sure. And it's just whether they can take control of it. It's what these sides know about each other, because they've played each other so often. Like, we know Guardiola, what he thinks about Liverpool's front three and how he fears what they can do to you. But what they could do to you in 2018, 2019, 2020, it's not quite the same as what they can do now. That's why we've seen Diaz put in, why we've seen Jota put in. So it's a bit of an unknown quantity in there. Well, City, they're still not quite clicking in the attack. And watching them put 4 past Liverpool, now I've said that. But you know what I mean? In fact, they don't have that number 9 goal scorer who sniffs out every single chance and puts it away. They have to create so many, and they do score plenty of goals, but they're not as clinical as Liverpool have been. It's going to be. You'd like to think it's going to be fast paced, like maybe the first half in the last game at the Etihad. Was it last game? Where it was an amazing first half and then they just knackered each other out. It was a rubbish second half. I'd imagine it's going to be something like that, but the first goal is going to be crucial because if City get it, Liverpool really do have to come at them. Whereas if Liverpool get it, when they're going to have whole City against them, it's going to be a very different one. It's going to be end to end. You want it to be this title decider, this big game that we've been waiting for. The English football's been waiting for, but as you said, it could be a caged affair. It just depends who starts and how it feels as it's going along. Because if you get to 65 minutes and it is very nervy, you think both sides will go, take a draw here. It's happened before. Wouldn't be a surprise at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be a few key players within this one, Hannah. I think Thiago probably will be one of those if he, as you'd expect, would start for Liverpool. I mean, we've not seen him against City this season. We've not seen him against Chelsea either. We've not sort of had the opportunity to see what he can do in these kind of big games. But it really does feel to me like if Liverpool are going to win, he's probably going to have to play quite well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wondered whether or not Naby could be in with a shout as well. I thought he was pretty decent against Benfica and potentially has earned him a spot certainly in Klopp's thinking. Yeah, Thiago's an interesting one. He obviously, like you said, he hasn't played in the big games against Man City or Chelsea this season. Obviously, he was pretty gutted to probably miss out on the Carabao Cup final, given that he was named in the starting lineup, but Naby came in and did an exceptional job. So, you'd certainly need someone of Thiago's quality, especially with just, I probably say it all the time, but he just makes everything look so easy. Thiago does. So he's probably one that I would go for, but I certainly think Naby's in with a shout, and obviously Fabinho and Henderson are probably nailed on, to be honest, especially for a game of that magnitude. But I'm probably a little bit nervous. I think whether or not it's a tough...
kicking a ball of air around, it's nothing to be nervous about. It is.
I think there's just so much riding on it, and we've been talking about this potential quadruple for so long, and you just feel like with 2 games against Manchester City in the next week, that could quite quickly all sort of fall apart. But that's probably why I'm feeling a little bit nervous. It's just a huge game, and I would probably say City are in the more comfortable position at the moment. Obviously, they do lead at the top of the table, but for Liverpool, I do think I agree with Ian. They've got the harder fixtures in the run-in, and you look at City's fixtures, and there's no easy games, of course, but they've certainly got games against teams that they are known for beating, whereas we've got quite a few big ones against Man United, a Merseyside derby, and I know it's pretty horrid at Everton at the moment, but it's a Merseyside derby, and in a way, form does go out the window for those games. So, and given what they need to do to stay up, I'm sure they'll be right up for that one, and we've still got a game against Tottenham as well. So, I'm a little bit more nervous for our run-in, really, and I think that's why a result against City is so important, because if we get beat by them, you sort of can't see City falling apart at any point if they win on Sunday.
I think if ever you're allowed to get nervous about a football match, it's probably this one this weekend, isn't it? It is a fairly big one, Ian. I'm sure even you would have
how many games to go? 8 games to go. 8 games to go. If it was 2 games to go, then maybe. But there's an awful lot of football to be played after this. So no, I'll get nervous when there's about 1 minute to go and I haven't thought of an intro.
I suppose you've got other things to be worrying about during the game, to be fair. But we'll obviously come to our team selections very shortly. But I think it's probably the most interesting at the top end of the pitch. I really think there's an argument to play Roberto Firmino in this one, Dudley. I don't know what you think about that, but I just think against a team like City, to have his link up and his ability to kind of hold the ball up in not necessarily a conventional way, but just to keep hold of it, could be really important for Liverpool.
Well, I don't want to give the team away too much, but yeah, he's starting in mine. I think as well with Firmino is that he's not... Okay, I'm now going to get proven completely wrong because someone will come out with the stats say he scored loads of goals as a sub, but it doesn't seem to me as though he's quite as effective coming off the bench as any of the other forwards, and that includes Minamino and Origi. So I do think if you're going to play Firmino in the game like this, you've got to play him from the start. I think you can gauge what City are going to do and how they're going to treat him and deal with him from those opening moments. So they can make a decision after that because they certainly have enough options on the bench. But I'd be starting with Firmino. I thought he did all right. He's done quite well actually since he's come back from injury, and I think he's a completely different. Well, he's obviously not possibly a first choice anymore. Certainly, with actually, to be honest, down the middle, I thought Mane's done really well. The games that he's played since he's come back from the African Cup of Nations, I agree that he's been, as Hannah said, he's been motivated by winning it and getting through the World Cup, but he's been playing in a different position. And I think whenever he's played down that middle, he's been really good. So 5 goals off the bench, thank you very much. Yeah, so I knew that was coming, but yeah, I do think he's better from the start. I think with Jota, for example, Jota's such a strange player, isn't he? I'm sure we've done this on the podcast before, but it's like sometimes it looks like he can't play football. It looks like he can't control the ball. But then the minute he gets in the area, it's like he's the one player out of all Liverpool's players. If it's dropping in the area or anywhere near the goal, you want it to be with him because he's able to score. I mean, we've seen the stats on what was it? His goals, the distribution of the left foot, right foot heads, whatever have you. So I think I'd start with Firmino.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come to our full team selections very shortly. But just one more question, Theo. I know you did a debate piece earlier this week. I can't actually remember which side of the debate you were on with Mohamed Salah, but surely this isn't the game to rest Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, are you suggesting that I was particularly naughty by saying drop him just to make it an actual story?
As I said, I couldn't remember which side.
You would never do that. You would never do that, Theo, as we well know. You're renowned for not saying things like that.
No, he's not been at his best for a while now, and there is an argument that you play your informed players. Like we're just saying how well in front of goal Sadio Mane is doing. We're going to run out of superlatives for Luis Diaz soon. He's just such an exciting player. He's the one in form who's looking fresh. It's a game winner for Liverpool. And Mohamed Salah is just not scoring the chances. He's getting them, he's snatching at them, he's not making the right decisions. If it was the Mohamed Salah of autumn playing midweek, he gets a brace against Benfica. Like that was a time when everything was going in for him and he was getting more assists because he knew everything was going right for him, so he wasn't just shooting on sight all the time. But at the same time, while you can make that argument that you do drop him because he's not at his best and you have to go with on form because how important it is for Liverpool, he is this talisman in attack. It is the perfect stage for him to silence the doubters, as he always does. Whenever you write Mohamed Salah off is when he comes back strongest. And it would be no surprise at all if he went into this game, scored the winner, and then he went and did it again at Wembley next weekend. He's just that one player you can't drop from the Liverpool team. And we've seen Mane and Firmino's status change, so they are now more chopping and changing, and Salah's this untouchable one. And there will be a time when he is no longer untouchable as he gets older, whether he signs a new contract or he doesn't. But he's still this Liverpool talisman who is the game winner. He's the go-to. He's the one who always gets them over the line when you need him to. He's owed a few goals, isn't he? He's not scored from open play for a couple of months. Hopefully, Sunday is his time to shine for it to really come into life. But you can understand why he's not at his best because how much football has he played in 2022 alone? The fatigue's there. We've already said on podcasts before how much is the contract playing on his mind, because I think the decline started around December and that's when this offer went in. And then you've got the Cup of Nations, losing that final, having to play extra time every 3 days. Klopp mentioned that in his press conference today. I think it's 120 minutes, 6 times in the space of a month, and you throw the League Cup final in as well. And then the World Cup, that's a huge blow as well, because he knows he's at the peak of his powers. And if he plays at another World Cup, it'll be when his best days are behind him. It'll be United States, Canada and Mexico in 2026. He'll be 34. So he's got to grab the stage when he's at Liverpool, and this is the stage. Manchester City in a potential title decider. There is plenty of football still to play, but he's definitely grabbing the advantage in the title race, wrestling control and putting the side in the front for that final straight. It's Mohamed Salah's time to shine. He's not been shining for the last few weeks. Hopefully he can change that narrative on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. He's due a goal, isn't he? But let's move on to our team selections then. Alisson Becker will be in goal. Doyle, the back four got to be fairly obvious, hasn't it?
You're definitely saying Alisson in goal.
I am, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, okay, just checking. Yes, it's going to be. It's not going to be Simicast. It's going to be Robertson, Van Dijk, Matip, and Trent.
Hannah, any suggestions on that, or is it just a case of the back four's the back four?
The back four is the back four. You don't make any changes for a game of that magnitude, and you want Van Dijk, you want Matip. I mean, some might say there's possibly a shout for Konate, but I think the fact that he played midweek against Benfica sort of says it all that he'll be starting against City.
Yeah, absolutely, Theo. I'm going to assume that your back four is the same, though feel free to correct me if it's not. If it is, do you want to talk us through your midfield?
Yeah, back four is the same. I think Klopp's even hinted at it today when he's talking about big game experience and these sorts of games. You go for your experienced ones, and it's that four. And that's the same for the midfield. I know Naby Keita was superb midweek, but you'd be very surprised if Jordan Henderson doesn't come back in. Fabinho is going to be the number 6, and then it's between Keita and Thiago for that final spot. And I feel like Thiago's got the edge. He can control this game for Liverpool. We've not seen him in these sorts of games before. And then Naby Keita, you want him to make that sort of impact off the bench with 25 minutes to go if needed. The same as will be the case for a couple of the attackers that we'll get to shortly.
Yep, absolutely. Doyle, is it the Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago midfield for you as well?
No, not picking that. You can't have Keita and Thiago in the same team against City, so that's not happening. However, Thiago probably will play rather than Keita. Fabinho will play, not playing Henderson. I thought he did okay against Watford. I didn't think he was particularly great when he came in against Benfica, and I just think for whatever reason, his legs just aren't there at the moment, and I think Liverpool are going to need that. So then you're left with, who do you play in this other midfield position if you're not playing Keita and you're not playing Henderson? And Harvey Elliott's not been playing. Curtis Jones has been a bit up and down. To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if Curtis Jones did play, but I don't think but I wouldn't pick him. I'm gonna go with Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Played the first game, didn't he, Jones?
Yeah, he played the first game. Yeah, Oxlade-Chamberlain. I'm going to go for. He hasn't played for a while. I know he's a player who needs rhythm. He's going to have to play at some point, and I just think that he's got a bit of history against Man City, hasn't he? I know it was a while ago, but he always seems to have a good game against them. And if it doesn't work, then
you score an own goal against them.
To be fair, that was the game you said before about they had a bit of a hangover. They literally did have a hangover that day, and he was like, that was the Bernardo Silva, wasn't it, where he didn't clap them on for the guard of honour. Crowd went wild for that. Oh yeah, that's right. There was nobody there. So yeah, Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think I said he should have played against Benfica. Shows you what I know. But for the reason that Keita played, to be fair, to be quite progressive, and I think he's not going to play, is he? Let's be honest, right? But I'm just saying that he should do. I'm just saying he should do. It's going to be Henderson, but I'm picking Oxlade-Chamberlain.
You were just stretching this podcast out so Hannah can't go and do the Lampard press conference.
He doesn't want to do it anyway. He doesn't want to do it. Anything you need to know about Everton was just in my tweet last night anyway, so...
Yeah, let's move swiftly beyond that. Hannah, Oxlade-Chamberlain for you, or would that be a bold shout, to say the least?
I think that's very bold. I rate Ox highly, and obviously, like Ian said, he does have that history against Man City, but it's got to be Jordan Henderson. For a game against Man City, you need your captain, and Fabinho is nailed on, and then it probably is a toss-up between Thiago and Keita. Personally, I would want Keita, but obviously Thiago's exceptional as well, so it is a toss-up between those two, I think, but I'm personally going with Keita.
Would we sooner have Declan Rice in there than Fabinho?
If Declan Rice is worth 150 million.
I like Declan Rice a lot, actually. I like him a lot. He's a great pass on the ball, but no, I don't agree with Jack Wilshere there. Sorry.
Declan Rice agrees that Fabinho's the best in his position, so that's it.
Yeah, Jack Wilshere's bored anyway. Why isn't he playing? He hasn't got a team, has he?
Yeah, he is. He's in Denmark. Did you not read my if you want to be exclusive? He's just signed him.
Oh, I don't read anything. Come on, don't even read my stuff.
Anyway, let's move on. Move on to the front line. Doyle, we'll come to you. Are you going for another wild card shout up top?
Another? There's no wild card shouts in my team. What are you talking
about? Massive wild card.
We've just been reminded that Danny Mills has said that Kyle Walker is better than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Well, better at what? Yes. Better at getting sent off for stupid things. You can't argue with that. Anyway, up front, yes, I'm gonna go with Origi. I'm not doing that. Imagine that. Well, it was this game last year, wasn't it, where Klopp played all 4 of them. Well, he can't play all 7 of them. That would be weird. If he played 4 of them at the time that were available, and for about 25 minutes, City were like, "What's going on here?" But then once City worked it out, as Theo said, first half was good. Second half, they were absolutely shattered. Trent got injured in that game, didn't he, as well? That was the last time Gomez played. I must admit, Gomez, last 2 games he played for replacing Trent, I thought he was very good. Now I wonder whether, okay, I know that Gomez is not Trent, but I wonder whether the fact that Gomez had 2 decent games and set up a good goal against Watford was just a slight reminder to Trent. Not that he's really needed it, but that's the kind of competition for places that perhaps Liverpool need all the way through the team, and that's what they've got. And as Theo was saying earlier, that's probably why they've got a better squad than City have at the moment. But we'll soon find out who's got the better team. But no, up front, I'm going to go with Firmino, Salah, and Mane. There's no way Salah can't play this game. I think we know what Jota can do from the bench. We know what Diaz can do. He's still a bit of an unknown quantity for a lot of the teams that they're going to come up against, and I think he might get on against City. But I'd definitely go with those 3. We mentioned Firmino before. We mentioned Mane's in good form, and Salah. I just think that something's. He could have scored twice against Benfica, and I thought the keeper had a good game, and on another day he would have scored twice. And I think this could be one of those days where it just goes back and clicks back into gear, because you'd be more worried if he wasn't having the shots. He's still getting into the positions. He's still setting people up. And I thought he did okay. First half against Benfica, got a bit tired after that. And if he is going to get tired against City, as we said, Diaz, Jota, there's loads of them that can come on.
Yeah, I think it'd be a massive boost for City if he wasn't on the team sheet as well, which I think psychologically could be important. I'm going to go Salah, Firmino and Mane as well, Theo, but I do think if Liverpool do need a goal, it wouldn't shock me if they went 4-2-3-1 again at some point in this game. Be a surprise to go from the start, but be interesting to see if that was to happen during the game. Which 3 are you going to go for?
It's one where I want to see Diaz start. Like, these sides know each other so well, and Guardiola, he's had that fear about the original front 3, but he knows what they're about. He doesn't know what Diaz is about. So if you start Diaz there, it's that unknown quantity that can win Liverpool the game. But then at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was the old tried and trusted front 3. I wouldn't start Jota. I think he's definitely on the bench. You bring him on if you need a goal. I know we've already touched on Firmino's record off the bench as a goal scorer this season, but Jota's that one who's a bit of a live wire when he comes on. You can get the goal that way. It's Sadio Mane's birthday on Sunday, so it'd be actually quite harsh to bench him and start someone else. But I want to see Diaz.
You would.
I would.
You
Yeah,
would.
I am.
It's like you're just destroying everybody all the time. You're destroying his birthday dreams. Leave the poor man alone.
I want to start Diaz, but I reckon it'll be the tried and trusted.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah, which 3 are you going to go for?
It's such a difficult one. It's mad that we're in a position where usually the front 3 would be the front 3, but we're in a position now where you can't call it. I think Salah, you've got to start Salah and Mane. And then for me, it would just be a toss-up between Diaz and Firmino. I like the idea of potentially starting Diaz, as Theo mentioned, for that unknown quantity and, something that City aren't used to. And like Theo said, the teams know each other well. So having Diaz in that starting lineup, they probably wouldn't know what to expect from him. So I'd want to go Diaz, but I'll go safe and go with what everyone else has said and go with Firmino, because that probably will be what happens.
Let's just say, what if it is 4-2-3-1? Like we're just saying, Henderson maybe looks a little bit tired. You take him out, Fabinho, Thiago. When Mohamed Salah's been short on confidence and not getting the goals, Liverpool tend to just stick him up front with Firmino in behind to get him backfiring again. That's happened a few times. And you've got Diaz on the left, Mane on the right. City wouldn't expect that either. It certainly looks good on paper. Whether the reality would quite live up to it, I don't think it will happen. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I can see it at some point in the game, but I'd be surprised if it was from the start, to be honest with you. But we shall see. Let's go for our match predictions then. I personally can't see anything other than a draw, if I'm being honest. I'm going to go 1-1, I think. I'd probably take that as well, as we alluded to a little bit earlier on in the show. Dory, how do you reckon it might be?
Come to me last.
Fair enough. Theo, what do you reckon it might be?
Desmond, 2-2.
Hannah?
I'll push the boat out and just go 0-0.
Oh, wow. What an exciting game that would be. Dory?
KG, 0-0.
I think Liverpool win 2-1.
Wow.
You've only said that because none of us has said Liverpool.
Well, that's why I didn't know what you were going to say. That's why I said come to me last.
Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to score the winner?
Yeah, with a pass from Origi who's come on. Yeah, so, I mean, you can't argue with this. What's interesting, by the way, my team that I said, and in fact, I think everybody's team, with the exception of one player, could have been the team in January 2019 when they got beat 2-1. I think I'm right in saying. Alisson, Robertson, Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, Fabinho, not Thiago's the one, the normal front three, and then whether it was Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Henderson, whoever. I just think that's quite interesting, the fact that 3 and a bit years down the line and they've still got the same players playing in this game. And I think there will come a time where that's not going to happen. And I do wonder, from what kind of talked me out of not picking Diaz, I think whether he might play on that basis, that it's something a little bit different. But I'm sticking with the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stick with mine as well. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Luis Diaz come off the bench. But I think we've just about run out of time. So that will do us for today's podcast. Plenty more stuff to come, of course, before and after the big game. It really does feel like a big one, doesn't it? Until next time, though, it's goodbye for now.